Alright folks, what is up? This is One Big Bug and I'm coming at you with Euro Truck Simulator 2. We are continuing on with our career. We ended up losing that bulldozer run thanks to my headphones crashing, but we did a long crane, I guess, or digger or driller run, which turned out rather well. And in this one, if I remember correctly, we have... That would actually be pretty cool, but... Yeah, the bulldozer. So we get another shot at the bulldozer run. And this is a pretty long run compared to what we've done so far at almost just shy of 540 kilometers. Now, normally I'm not keen on taking duplicate trailers if I can help it. But number one, you guys didn't get to see the bulldozer trip. And number two, I can't deny that not only does this pay far more, by 3,300 almost euros more, but also the per mile, or the per kilometer rather, is around 54 cents more. So yeah, we're taking the dozer. Haven't come across that scene yet. Don't know if I will. So, we did a couple upgrades on our truck. We should probably have our lights on. It's already 8:30, so... I'm recording all these in one day. So that's why I keep forgetting to go and get, well, no, that's not why I keep going and forgetting to go and get, but it's one of the reasons that I'm not updating the mirror right now, or looking for a smaller floating mirror mod. Wait a minute, where am I going? Oh, I'm such an idiot. Fortunately, we can make up for it somewhat. I was making the turn one turn early. It's up here that I'm supposed to go left. You swear you wouldn't want me on the road, you know. If he does this in a video game, how the hell can he drive in real life? Trust me, I wonder that myself sometimes. Alright. Excuse me. So we take the bulldozer. This looks like pretty much the same setup as the last time I took the bulldozer. Maybe the game's just giving me a second chance at it. It's possible. And I did get something to eat between the last video and this one, so I'm feeling much better. I'm not feeling hungry. Up. Let's roll. Oh, sidewalk, sidewalk. I was hoping I could get away with it, and we're back to driving like a dumbass again. I'm so concerned about the sidewalk and screwing that up that I don't stop my truck in time for the light. I'd have lost my CDL a long time ago if this were real. No company would hire me. I just love that sound. Come on, light. Come on. Give me the green. Give me the green. You... Oh, my... How was that my fault? He saw me turning. Except that he had the inside... God. So I've already managed to piss away $750 worth of this run. Come on. Alright. Let's try and straighten up and fly right for the rest of this. No, I don't do this for entertainment value. I'm legitimately, as I've said before, screwing up. And it's really, really, really aggravating to me that I'm doing that. Because I'm better than this. I shouldn't be making such simple mistakes, you know? I might need to fuel up before the end of this run, but I don't think so. Right. This is going to be an unpleasant turn unless I take up the road here, so... We're going to have to wait for him to go. You don't move. Alright, we're good. I suppose if there's one other thing, and I've talked about the traffic AI, is that the traffic AI waits an unreasonable amount of time before it'll actually go, whether it's clear or whether there's a car coming. If there's a car coming and it's way off, it'll still usually wait, even though it has plenty of time for go through. You know, it'll just continue to sit there, which often leads to you having to sit at an intersection for an unreasonably long amount of time. And the other thing that the AI will do, as you saw there at that intersection, was even though it's clear and there's absolutely nothing coming, will sit there for like an extra 3 or so seconds before it actually goes through the damn intersection. And it's so annoying, you know? It's like, just freaking go already. I mean, most of my gripes with this game comes from the traffic AI, honestly. One of my bigger ones is the endless stream of traffic. This happens when you're at an intersection and cars just continue to come. They come non-stop. That is the single most annoying thing I have ever had to deal with. More so when there's an AI car in front of you. Because even if there's room for the car to go through at one point, as long as there's another car coming, it won't. And so you just sit there, and sit there, and sit there, and you end up going nowhere. There's one time I sat for 10 minutes before I started recording Eurotruck. I sat there for a good 10 minutes, just not going anywhere, and finally ended up going around all the cars and going through the intersection myself, you know? And even with the improved AI, that's still a problem, because what the game does, and I've actually sat at the intersection and watched this happen, when I've been at the head of the intersection, or when, you know, when I've been at the turn-in. Why is this pausing so often? When I've been at the right at the intersection, I've been the first vehicle in line. Often what I've seen, I've actually been able to look down the road and see the cars actually spawn. And it just comes one after another after another. There's not a single break. And it doesn't end. And the only way I've actually gotten around that is to, in short, slowly creep out into the intersection until a car stops. So where you're far enough out that a car basically considers that you're blocking the intersection and stops. And then I've proceeded through. Yeah? I'm not sure what the speed limit is for this one. I'm pretty sure going down to 40 will be safe. Looks like we're going to be on the downhill for this, which is just fine by me. Yeah, a little higher gearing. And right-hand turns in a truck, man. Right-hand turns in a truck. Keeping an eye on that trailer. Trying to keep the truck inside or even on the line versus trying to make sure the trailer doesn't go off the shoulder at the very least. And then in the reverse, trying to make sure you're not in the shoulder by keeping the trailer as much from the other side of the road as possible. It gets a little frustrating. But yeah, I think tomorrow, before I do anything important, I'm going to bust out my air can and clean off my cooler. What? Speeding? Oh, good Lord, have I ruined this run? What was 7,000 is now, what, 1,200, 1,250? Yeah, at this point, I might as well have taken that other run. Oh, boy. Well, that's alright. We're still in a profit in terms of paying the loan back, so... Yeah, this is not fun. See, there it says 70, but down bottom it says 60. So, yeah, what am I actually supposed to do? You know, I think I need to turn the one in the nav off, because it probably reads what it's originally supposed to be, but Truck Sim Map changes it, and it doesn't affect that. I don't know. I think I'm going to turn that off. I know that there's a way to turn it off in the gameplay options. So... I think we can use some high beams. Too low in the gearing, sadly. Yeah, I see the turnoff coming. The real hard part is definitely late at night like this when it's completely dark out. Even with the moon, I don't think the moon reflects in the mirrors, so even when you have a brighter night out, it's still pretty dark. You can't see the trailer. And when you're driving with a big trailer like this, that's really a detriment in terms of corners. Alright. Sorry. I forgot. I think we're all good. Yeah. Moves off. Besides, it's a highway, it's not too bad. Oh no, we want to stay in this lane because it looks like we're transitioning to another highway right away. That's where some of the most annoying times are. When you need to, when you get up on a highway and you take the first exit off onto another highway, and then you take another exit directly off that highway onto a third one. When that happens, oh, I hate that. You almost want to scream at the damn thing. Like, is there not an easier way? We haven't been able to build much momentum. Granted, we're doing a lot better than we did with the train, but still, we haven't been able to build up a lot of momentum. And I think this bulldozer's heavier than the other one, though I'm not sure. No, 16 tons. It's the same weight. It's the same weight, 16 tons, so... And yes, the song went through my head. You load 16 tons, what do you get? Towing a bulldozer through the night and still in debt. There you go.
Back.
I always liked night drives. Sometimes I used to just like to get out in my car and drive in a single direction. You know, just pick one at random and start driving. There was one day I wasn't feeling too well. Not like sick kind, just depressed and angry and agitated. This was a long time ago. And at the time I owned, I believe it was an 85... It was somewhere between 85 and 87 Honda Civic. Even though I can't remember the year, I remember the car explicitly. Blue, little blue Honda Civic, two-door hatchback. And what's really, yeah, I realize I'm going a little bit faster than what I want. So that's why I'm letting it coast right now. What really stuck out from the car for me was, number one, its speedometer. The speedometer went up to like 180. Yeah, I'm cutting this corner like this on purpose in case I need to glide out. You're not gonna give me a ticket, right? Right. Okay. The advantages of driving at night. These are some sharp corners. Fortunately, we only have 16 tons in a very sturdy truck, so I probably didn't even need to glide it like that. But as I was saying, the speedometer went up to like 180 with a little tiny, Honda Civic hatchback. Really found that strange. It's like, if I'm going 180 miles an hour in a car this small and I get into an accident, I'm just going to disintegrate. They're going to have to scrape the car up with a spatula, never mind me. But the other thing that stuck out for me on is when I drove it. I was in third gear, all right? Third. And I was going 85, comfortably. As a matter of fact, if I downshifted, or if I upshifted that car, upshifted that car to fourth, it wasn't quite 85. I think I was doing like 70s or something like that. I had to push it to 85. If I shifted the car before hitting 85 into fourth, it bogged down. Yeah, it bogged down. I had to push it to 85 miles per hour to put the car into fourth. And it still had a fifth gear. So yeah, I didn't doubt it could go 180. I mean, I literally never had the car, well, I can't say never, but almost never beyond third gear. And I only once ever took it to fifth. I was a crazy, I was a crazy guy growing up, but I wasn't insane. And I one time took that car. I didn't have a lot of gas. Maybe somewhere around between 3/4, maybe a little bit less. And I just picked a direction and started driving. Just cruised along the road at night. I didn't have work the next day, fortunately, so I was just going. Just chilling, driving, listening to the radio. Never paying attention to the fact that stations, became blurry. They'd blur out because I mostly didn't listen to stations. I was listening to, well, I'm trying to remember if it had a CD player or if I had a tape deck. And I used like combined tape deck / tape deck CD adapter with a CD player, but regardless of whatever it was, I'm pretty sure it was actually tape deck. I don't even remember if I had a CD player at this point. It was an 85, 87, but I think I owned it somewhere in the early 90s. Was it early 90s? Yeah, it was like 93, 94, I think. So I think I had the converter, the tape deck converter with a separate CD player. And I was just cruising the highway, swapping discs. I still had some cassette tapes, so I played them. And was just cruising. And the next thing I know, the sun's coming up. I left at like 9 o'clock at night. The sun's coming up. I was somewhere on the other side of Delaware. No kidding. I had driven from Massachusetts, Plymouth, through Rhode Island and Connecticut, deep into Delaware. I was like heading for Virginia. Fortunately, I didn't have to work the next day. Unfortunately, I didn't have money with me at the time. So I only had the gas I had in the tank. Well, being a very, very, very fuel efficient little car, I actually made it back with about a quarter tank to spare. But that's how I used to get sometimes, That's how I used to get. I did it with walks too. I used to go on walks, long walks to nowhere at night because I was bored or just feeling restless or I just was feeling down. And I remember that one time I walked and walked and walked and just kept walking. And the next thing I know, I lived in Taunton at the time, the last town I lived in Massachusetts before moving to Hawaii. And I had walked from where I lived, which was about one block, 1.5 blocks from the green. If you don't know what the green is, it's a square rotary. And if you ever call it a rotary in Taunton, people will correct you. It's not a rotary. And technically it's not. It's a square. It's really, really weird. But when you live in Taunton long enough, it becomes kind of that pride symbol, And that's exactly what it was for me. But I had walked in the other direction, away from the green, and I had actually made it all the way to the Rainham Greyhound racetrack. Now, to give you an idea how far this is, From where I lived, it is a 45-minute to an hour drive to that. I had walked somewhere in the vicinity of 5 to 6 hours. Yeah, I don't know why I keep getting these hang-ups. I mean, some of it's loading, but to me it just says I really need to clean my GPU and my cooler tomorrow, which will be fine. It's probably overdue. But yeah, and then I realized, it hit me because I have been so absorbed in thought and so absorbed in, you know, talking to myself in my head and probably out loud. Fortunately, it was very late at night and nobody saw, that my feet were actually killing me. I was in pain. And I realized I had to walk that same time, somewhere around 5 to 6 hours, back. When that realization hit me, yeah. And the walk back was bad. It wasn't terrible. Terrible? Terrible. It wasn't terrible. But it was painful. You know, there were times when I literally had to tell myself, just keep your feet moving. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Because I was a bit afraid that if I had stopped and sat down to rest, that I would actually not stand back up to walk. I would actually probably just fall asleep where I was, wherever I sat. And fortunately, I made it back home. And again, I don't remember if I had to work that day or not, but if I did, I worked, almost every job I worked the night shift or the late shift. You know, like if I was working Dunkin' Donuts, I didn't have to work until like 1 in the morning. You know, because I was a donut finisher, and then I did some deliveries, and I'd work counter a little bit. You know, I was a donut finisher. You know, I closed McDonald's. I closed Burger King. You know, I worked the graveyard shift at a convenience store. All kinds of crazy things. So, when the sun was coming up, that usually wasn't a bad thing. So it had to have been on a day off, and it had to have been on a day where, you know, even if I went to work the next day, it wasn't going to be until really, really late. So... used to go on all kinds of crazy walks, drives. There's one time I actually walked an hour and a half just to get something to eat. Because the diner, the 24-hour diner that was just like a block and a half over from me was closed for some reason, I forget what. And it was one of those... It was literally one of those diners you kind of like see on TV. It was a train car, you know, with the counter, which is where I sat, and the benches and whatnot. You know, it was that kind. It was an old train car. So the only other place that was open, which I forget the name of it, maybe it was an IHOP, or it was like a local, big restaurant, was open, but it was like an hour and a half away by foot. And I was hungry. I didn't want to cook anything, so I literally walked there. And it was a weekend, and you know, the streets that I was walking in that direction weren't particularly safe. So I put on these rings that I had at the time, big skull rings and whatnot, where if I were to hit someone with them, it would really hurt. God, I love police, really. No, there are really a lot of good cops out there, but then there's really not a lot of good cops out there as well. And I ran into a couple that they gave me a hard time, but ultimately let me go. And they stopped me as I was walking into the restaurant, and they started to question me like, where are you coming from? And I said, at the time I lived at 77 Broadway. I said, 77 Broadway in Taunton? What are you doing all the way out here? I said, getting something to eat. You walked all this way just to get something to eat? I said, well, the local diner next door to me is closed for some reason. Do you know any other place that's open at 2 o'clock in the morning? That's close? And then they took a look at my rings and they asked me about them. I said, they're just rings, they're just decorations. He says, well, you looks like you really hurt some with them. I said, well, yeah, I could. I don't want to. It's not my intention. And ultimately they let me go, and I went and got my food and walked home. But that wasn't the only run-in I had with cops in that area. I remember I was walking to work. I worked at Dunkin' Donuts. I'm dressed in a full Dunkin' Donuts uniform. All right, I'm wearing a Dunkin' Donuts shirt, which locally is very easy to distinguish. A Dunkin' Donuts shirt. I have a hat that says Dunkin' Donuts on it, and I'm wearing the Dunkin' Donuts khakis. And it's kind of easy to recognize the Dunkin' Donuts employees. And if you'll forgive me, if anyone should recognize a local donut shop employee, you would think it would be a police officer. But I don't hold that police go to Dunkin' Donuts for the same reasons that most people do. I understand why they go. But another quarry, cool. The thing is this cop, I'm walking to work. This cop pulls up next to me, puts this huge spotlight on me and goes, what are you doing? I said this long before Gabriel ever did. I said, walking? Where are you going? To work. Figured that would be enough. I kid you not. Yeah? I kid you not. The cop asked me, where do you work? I actually stood there stunned for about 3 seconds. And I pulled the hat off my head and I lowered it down to about chest level. And I pointed to the front of it with my other hand and I said, Dunkin' Donuts, right up the street. And I forget what he said after that. It was some gruff kind of, all right, you can go, but don't get in any trouble kind of thing. And I was like, really? I mean, one of the reasons I stood stunned for as long as I did is I actually had a fleeting notion, unfortunately it was fleeting, to look at him and go, McDonald's. I mean, he's got a huge spotlight on me. I have a shirt that says Dunkin' Donuts. I have a hat that says Dunkin' Donuts. My pants even have a little Dunkin' Donuts symbol on them. And he's going to ask me where I work? But I was pretty sure that if I gave him that wisecrack answer, I'd be paying for it. So I just kept my mouth shut. Alright, here we are. Now, I believe... Yeah. This will be the last video for this week of our career mode. The next video tomorrow, which should be Friday, will be our mod showcase, which may be a truck, it may be Okay, that didn't register. I can see that I'm a little off, so I'm just going to back it up and try again. That's the first time I've ever failed that. That's pretty depressing in all due honesty. But whatever, we'll make it work right here. There we go. Alright. Made it level. I think I'm going to go back and forth. One long distance, one ADR, one long distance, one ADR. And then once I get this filled up and this filled up, I'm going to go full eco driving. So we'll unlock explosives, because why not? And we know that there's a rest spot right up here. There's also one down lower if I wanted to, but this one makes more sense. Actually, I don't even think I need my lights anymore. We'll need the parking brake here. Get some rest, and let's just see what trailer we're going to tow next. So there goes our loan installment of $5,788. Fortunately, the load we just took, even with what we lost, pretty much covers that. So everything we did before that is profit. So that's pretty cool. Map. And we want our freight market. And we're here. So, looks like we have 15 tons of video game consoles. $12.28 a mile, 6,805. We have a smaller bulldozer, 15 tons, at 6,590 at $12.66. And we got a 25-ton Hitachi earth mover. That's real short distance. And then we have another crane, but we already did a crane run. I'm just curious what other ones there are. I just want to look. Another earth mover, dry milk, potatoes, and power cables. So yeah, we'll probably end up taking the standard trailer. We'll be hauling the video game consoles. We got to get those PS4s through. But we'll definitely need, we rested. We'll need fuel by the next run. We'll need fuel for this. But that's not bad, considering we just took, with zero fuel economy driving, we took the train, the bulldozer, which the footage was lost, the crane, and this. God, do I have all the videos? I'm honestly going to have to look. But I think we took a total of 4 runs before we have to refuel. That's pretty good. So that's going to be me done for this episode, folks. I hope you've enjoyed watching this as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Until next time, this is going to be One Big Bugger signing out. I'll see